Hi, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jesse Klingen, and I was one of the founders of Somerville Overcoming Addiction. I'm currently serve on the board of Aldermen. I told Joanne I'd step in tonight and MC this event. I just want to say, I want to thank you all for coming out on a Friday night. Actually, what I really want to do right now is recognize Joanne's determination to hold this vigil. You know, this is we've been doing this for a number of years with Somerville Overcoming Addiction. Actually, a few of us personally went into some other communities. People will attest, Alicia, that helped get like Medford Overcoming Addiction started and Malden and stuff. But a lot of what we started happened right here. And for us not to hold a vigil, which almost happened this year because of some scheduling conflicts and other things that came up, but Joanne was determined to hold this vigil because it really is important, whether it's windy, whether it whatever the turnout looks like, it doesn't matter. These people mattered, and their names will be said tonight in the city of Somerville because many of them lived here, most of them lived here, but whether they lived here or not, they're cared about, and we're gonna hold vigil tonight no matter what, and that's what we're determined to do. So I want to thank all of you. We'll probably ask some of you to read some names. Hopefully you'll be comfortable with that because usually we have a few more volunteers, but again, a lot of family obligations came up, so we weren't able to get that, but we are here, all of us. I want to thank you all again, and so let's get this program started. We're going to have a few speakers. The first speaker is going to be former Ward 3 Alderman Bob McWaters, who was with the Cambridge Court Probation Department for 34 years. They have drug court over there. He's seen this issue up close and personal, and it's been really helped mentor a lot of people through the system in a positive way. So we want to hear from Bob tonight. So we figured we'd come up and give that side of things in this. Yeah. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Jesse, and welcome everyone tonight. When Joanne asked me the other day if I'd come up and speak, I said absolutely, she's the boss. And I really want to commend her in Somerville Overcoming Addictions for the terrific work they do. As Jesse mentioned, I just recently retired from the Cambridge Court. I was a probation officer for 34 years. And I saw this problem starting in the late 90s. By the way, we have an epidemic in this country, a public epidemic, and it's an emergency right now. We have 200 people a day in this country dying. And another point I want to make, we've been in the Afghanistan war, and we've been over the Middle East for over 17 years. We've lost roughly 4,000 troops, which is too many. We've lost roughly over 400,000 people since the late 90s because of opioid and heroin addiction. That is unacceptable in this country. We have the best and brightest minds in this country. We have data-driven. Governments are now run by data. Corporations are run by data. Hospitals. Why can't we come up with policies to attack this problem? We need to get to the bottom of this. And we all know how it started. It starts with the prescription pills, and then it goes on to the heroin. And today it's even more complicated with the fentanyl and carfentanil. Fentanyl is 50% more potent than heroin, and that's why people are dying. Lives matter in this country. This disorder, addiction, whatever you want to call it, we need to do a better job. And as a probation officer for 34 years, the court transformed and started treating addicts and started treating the mentally ill. Cambridge Court has a drug court that's been pretty successful. I know I've had conversations with Joanne about some of them. They don't have a drug court. But in my estimation, every district court should have a drug court with this epidemic we have in this country. This is a national problem, and we have the federal government, state government, and local governments, along with medical providers, need to work together. We need policies, we need treatment, we need maintenance for the addicts. We need to help these people. We can't just leave them, find them in dumpsters, bathrooms at Dunkin' Donuts, or the hospitals overdosing. We need to get out there with policies and treat people. And it's not being done right now. As a former elected official, I can be held accountable also, but so shouldn't your congressmen, your senators, your state legislators. You are the people firsthand who've lost loved ones here. Hold your elected officials accountable. Meet with them. Tell them what you've gone through. Look for changes. Make sure doctors aren't prescribing Xanax or Klonopin if you have a headache or you got a backache or whatever it is. I often told my clients, if you're stressed out and suffering from anxiety, ask the doctor to give you a prescription to a gym. We're at the point now where this is an emergency. People shouldn't be dying at the rate they are dying today. It's unacceptable. Keep up the good work. You need to be there for the people who are suffering. We can't look at them as just junkies and addicts. They're your brothers, they're your sisters, they're your uncles, they're your aunts. They need help. And the only way you can do that is to provide treatment for them. Treatment and maintenance. Because you can't, drug addiction, you're not going to solve it overnight. This is a real complicated problem that's going to take some time. But as I said, we have the brightest and best minds in this country, and we can do it. So keep up the good work out there, and I'm always here. I can lend a helping hand, but I think everyone here too, speak to your state legislators and implore them to have the trial court have a drug court in every district court in this Commonwealth, which they should. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob McWaters. As we know, tackling this epidemic, there's very many sides to it. One being the courts with empathetic folks, public servants like Bob and the work that he's done. Another is obviously recovery and treatment. And so, we are here to remember those that we lost, but we want to touch on all of these pieces because it's important for people to leave here with hope also. And so we always have somebody that's in recovery come up and speak at our vigil because it's important for folks to remember that recovery is possible. There are 23 million Americans out there living in recovery that are living proof, and we need to hear those stories so that you can go home to your families and know that there is hope out there. So with that, I want to bring up Casey Fitzgerald. Would you come out?
Okay. Hi guys, I'm Casey. I'm an alcoholic and an addict. This was impromptu. I don't even want to hear my own voice. This was like impromptu, to be honest with you. Like everything in me tells me like I don't matter and like these things like I don't have to do to get better. But the reality of it is like I came here tonight because I lost my ex-boyfriend over the summer. He was from Somerville, and like this is where we got high. This is where he lost his life, and like this is where I remember him. And like walking up, I was like, it was just funny because he asked me to speak, and like I was like, I can't say no because he's not here to like speak for me. And what that looks like for me today is, I grew up in a great home. Like my parents are like unbelievable. They supported me through like all different sorts of treatment and like gave me the best opportunity that I could. Like it wasn't in the cards for me to be an IV heroin user, but like sure enough, that's who I became. And it started when I was young, and like it progressed. It got significantly worse, and the next thing you know is like the kid from the cul-de-sac turned into like the homeless, helpless drug addict. And I was given ample opportunity to get better, and like what that looked like was my parents probably paid my college tuition and programs and treatment, and time and time again they couldn't figure out like why I couldn't get it. I've been on maintenance, I've been on pretty much everything under the sun, and like those things didn't work for me. And organizations like this time around, I got an opportunity and I got a scholarship to a 12-step program, and like that's where my journey kind of began again. And I've been through the steps and I've helped other women, and like I took my will back, and like I didn't like put the footwork in to continue to get better. And what that looked like was like the end of a run, the person who's no longer here like was saving me, and I was like forced into submission, and like it looked like I had nowhere else to go. My parents wouldn't answer the phone, and I can only imagine like how hard that was for them, but it's what they needed to do for like me to have an opportunity to get better. And so I showed up at this program, and I walked off the methadone clinic, and I kicked at this house, and I literally did not want to do it. If there was like a way out at the time, I would have done it, but I had like no energy to like continue doing this. And like then I was like blessed with the fact that like I had strong women around me, which I'm a strong personality myself, so it was a little tough, but at the same time like I saw these women's lives like significantly get better, and it gave me like that little bit of hope to like try again. And what that looks like for me is like I do the steps, like I wrote a 4-step, like I'm in making amends right now, and like I'm doing all the things that I don't want to do because like I know these are the only things that are going to keep me alive. You know, every fiber of my being wants to run away and like do what I'm comfortable with, and like this is so uncomfortable. And like those are the things that like for some reason like there's change in my life, and what that looks like is like I'm employable, I show up for my family, like I'm a sister now most of the time when I don't hate them. But other than that, like my family calls me to check how I'm doing. My family calls me to ask like opinions on things, when before like they wouldn't answer the phone because I was literally just making demands. And I don't know, like I'd love to say it was easy, and it is easy, but it isn't. And I know that like this isn't something that like I've done a little bit of work and now I'm okay. Like this is a lifelong errand of like I need to show up for other women and like be okay, and like trusting God that like whatever path it is, like the fact that he's no longer here with us, the fact that like I'm in like copious amounts of pain around it is like it's not about me, it's about someone else, and like that will like be useful to some other woman out there that's like going through this. I really honestly like my opinion around this is like for a long time I really believed that like I was going to be the kid that was going to be on maintenance the rest of my life, and like thought that was how I was going to do it, and like time and time again it failed, and like I didn't want to believe that like I was okay. Like I wanted to believe that I was depressed, that I was anxious. Well, anyone that just stopped shooting heroin might be depressed and anxious. Like everything around me had crumbled, and like it was one of those things that like I used the mental health card for a very long time. I told doctors what they wanted to hear. I left with the script of Xanax. I left with the Neurontin. I left with all these medications that were supposed to make me better. But me being me, I'm like, 1 will make me better, what will 5 do? And needless to say, like time and time again, I fell on my face. And I can tell you, like standing up here today, like I'm not on any medication. I literally have a spiritual connection, and I go to meetings and I try and do the next right thing, and like I fall short left and right, and that's okay. But like I just get up and try again, you know? And it's one of those things that I don't know where this is gonna go, you know? Like I literally could leave here and like my life could fall apart, and I just have to trust in God and like keep walking through it. I don't know, my story is like still not written. Like I don't know where this goes from here. Like I don't know what happens. I just know that like some of it was a huge part of my life, and it still is, and like I came because Sean passed, and like the funny, God has jokes, because he came up and asked if I would speak, and I was kind of put on the spot, and I really don't know. I didn't know what I was going to say, to be honest, because it's easy when I'm in a group of like other people like me, you know? I feel like they understand, and it's a lot easier to portray what my life was like and what it looks like now. And like for someone who's like lost a son, a daughter, a significant other, like I don't know that pain. I don't know what it looks like being on the outside looking in and like wanting to control and like save someone, and then like all I can do is like show other women how to do this, you know? And that's what I try and do today. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Casey, for that inspiration. Before I move on, I just want to recognize a few of my colleagues in the audience today. Ward 3 Alderman Ben Ewan Campen, Alderman at Large Stephanie Hirsch, former Mayor, Mayor Emeritus Jean Brune, and of course former Alderman Bob McWaters. And some of our community partners I want to recognize, Mary Casesso from Cambridge Health Alliance, Dave and Kathy Harrington from the Harrington Foundation. They do great work. Mary Ann Frangula, she's the Executive Director of Moore, Massachusetts Organizing for Addiction Recovery. I see some of our friends from other cities. I saw Janelle from Medford Overcoming Addiction, and Alicia. I saw some guys from Banyan are out there, Chris. So, thank you all for coming out, and we're going to move on with the program right now. I'm going to bring up Susan Lordy, who is the woman who is setting up the spray paint graffiti, recovery graffiti, which is really cool, and she's going to talk about that and tell you about that and tell you a little bit about her story also. So we're going to bring her up right now. Should she come in?
Yeah.
Oh, there you are. I was like, I saw Joanne go that way. I don't think she did.
No.
Over. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Yes, it is.
Okay. Hi, I'm Susie. I'm a grateful recovering drug addict and alcoholic. And this year I celebrated 25 years of continuous sobriety. Woo! But that wasn't before I went through 10 miserable years trying to get it. And I'm just lucky I'm here today. So what I found every time that I kept going back to drugs and alcohol was it never got any easier, it never got any softer, it never got any better, but the compulsion was just too much. And, we could call this a disease all we want and say, oh, it's like cancer, but it's not, because we hurt people to the core that we love. And not for nothing, I've got relatives that have cancer, and they did not emotionally damage their family the way I did mine. So while this is a disease that really destroys at the core, and I firmly believe it's sent from the devil himself. And that's what I used to look at cocaine as. I used to think it was the devil's dandruff. I called it that all the time. And so the way I like to describe what drugs and alcohol did to me very briefly before I get to recovery graffiti, because I'm about the solution, not the war stories. When I was 6 years old, I used to think, well, when I grow up, I want to marry the captain of the football team. And then when I was in high school and I had started using drugs and alcohol by then, I said to myself, maybe I ought to look at dating someone in a band, because it seems like they have a lot of drugs around, and that's probably a good mindset for me to be with. By the time I was in college, my addiction was so strong, I said I better date a drug dealer. That's who I better be going out with. By the time my addiction got that strong, I said, I don't care if they're a married Colombian with 12 wives in other countries. I need to get high. And that's all I cared about. And this is someone that grew up the baby in a Roman Catholic family. My family loved me. They enabled me. If they did not enable me, I must say this, I would have probably died of AIDS, because back then, AIDS didn't have an AZT cocktail, okay? And all of the girls that I knew that didn't have parents that were funding their addiction like mine was, just because they were afraid of what I would do, they were selling their bodies on the street and they weren't living. And that's a hard reality. So, you don't know which path you're supposed to be on. You don't, whether it's tough love or this love. And I wouldn't want to be a parent in this audience, because it's very painful. And for me today, what I do is I make sure that my sponsees go to these vigils, like Beth is here today, and she's got under a year, because I want them to see what you can do to your families. This could really be you. You know what I mean? You go back out, there's no guarantee you get back in. And this is the wreckage that you will leave behind, and it lasts. It doesn't go away. It's not a 6-month, oh, I missed them. It's like, it's something that, I have a best friend in Florida who's been gone a few years now, and she didn't get it, She got it for a while when I was in Florida, but she didn't keep it. You know, she didn't do what she was supposed to do, and she's 6 feet under today. And I started Recovery Graffiti actually because of her and others that I knew that used to like to tag. So here's where my story turns around. When I couldn't get it for those first 10 years, I decided I better find something I want to do that was fun, because I couldn't go from being this wild animal on the streets like I was to all of a sudden being, you know, this nun. It just wasn't going to happen. And so I said, well, if I'm going to work on myself, I have to play as hard as I work. And I didn't want to go to the movies, and I didn't want to go bowling, and I didn't want to hang out with any of you people in the room. So I was like, this isn't going to work very well for me. But I was so afraid that if I didn't find something fun, I knew my ticket was punched. You know what I mean? Sometimes you just know, and I knew. I had come so close to dying so many times. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to escape it this time. And the only reason I wasn't okay with dying, here's the kicker, was because I thought I was such a miserable SOB down here that I was afraid to meet my maker. I'm like, with my luck, I'll get up there, right? And, you know, St. Peter will be at the pearly gates, and he'll be looking at me, who did nothing with all the gifts I had, right? And just, like, injured people all along the way. And there'll be this kid in a wheelchair with spina bifida that, like, saved the universe. And it'll be like, who are you going to let in? And it's not going to be me. And I really was afraid like that. And I used to think like that every day. I'm like, when I die, I'm not going to get in. I can remember thinking that. And thank God I thought like that, because you know what? It kept me clean for a couple of minutes before the rest of the fog cleared. But I did decide that because I was a party animal in the past, I needed to still get some kind of high in my sobriety, okay? My endorphins had to kick in. Graffiti for me, my friends used to tag under bridges, they used to tag the subways, they used to get felonies all the time, and it was like the whole rush of it, and the beautiful colors, and the this and that, and then I was like, but everything's negative, man. Everything you're writing is like, you know what I mean? It's a profanity, it's a this, I mean, and some of these people were hugely talented. So I decided when I got sober, I said, you know what? When it's time for me to give back, and I'll know, and this past year is when it's been time for me to seriously give back, much more than I had in the past, I said, it's going to be Recovery Graffiti. We're going to turn the negative to the positive. Graffiti gets a bad rap, so do people in recovery. Not for nothing, I know more people that say, oh, recovering addict, yeah, good luck with that one. Or, oh, the person does graffiti. Oh, you know, they probably tag under a bridge. No, man, they're doing murals in Cambridge and they're making 6 figures. That's what they're doing, okay? So the way I look at this is, graffiti's a way out for a lot of people that with their Corey checks, they'd be pumping gas for the rest of their life, okay? But now, if they really have an artistic bone in their body and they start following this path and hanging with like-minded people, these are people that can get art scholarships someday. These are people whose artwork can be in the town hall, and they should be. And this is where I come in as the activist, because I'm the one that's always saying, you know what, you say, oh, this is so nice. Good, then I want it in your school. You think it looks nice? It does look nice. It should be on your walls. We need to get together as a community, all of us, and push for anything that helps people recover. And I'll tell you something, since I've introduced Recovery Graffiti, I've had people take trains, planes, and automobiles to come to these events. That's how much they want to do it. And it's like, you know, if it works for them, if it keeps one person around one more 24 hours, I'm going to keep doing it. I'm helping people that have brain injuries now from drugs and alcohol, there but for the grace of God, right? People that are in recovery that don't have much time, that don't know what they want to do. They're like, no, I don't want to join a softball team, but yeah, spray paint looks kind of cool. What's this? If you're over 18, come our way. If not, we've got acrylic paints for you. There's plenty of stuff to do. We have an event literally every week from now until almost Thanksgiving. That's how much people want to do it. The goal in the future is, what are you guys going to do? Here's what I say to people in the first year of sobriety. What are you going to do on Saturday night? You better start thinking now. You know what I mean? You got to find a game plan, because all that time you spent using, you got to now fill doing something else. You know? Before it was all the scheming and the conniving and all of this took up all our time. We have to find positive things to put in our path that builds our self-esteem. And for me, Recovery Graffiti takes all different forms. It's not just Graffiti Fest happy events. It's also memorializing your loved ones at a vigil like this. Thank you, and we hope to see your artwork up there too. God bless.
Thank you so much. I just want to also recognize our community partners who showed up. Alicia's Angels, Mary Zagarello from FBI, and Column Health, which is a treatment facility right here in Somerville in Davis Square. They're a great community partner and resource. So with that, I want to touch upon another part of this, another facet of this sort of attack on this epidemic. And one thing I want to stress is that, like the good former Alderman McWater said, it's by any means necessary. We're here to remember people that have passed on, and one of the things I think that people get really hung up on is, medication-assisted treatment or, harm reduction approach, harm reduction techniques. And so I think we need to take everything into consideration when we're talking about keeping people alive, because there is no recovery in death. So with that, I want to bring up local psychotherapist and harm reduction advocate, Rivka Lapidus, who's going to speak a little bit about harm reduction, which is another tool in the toolbox.
So I'm a little anxious coming and talking about harm reduction, because often there's a big gap between how people think of recovery and how they think of harm reduction, that harm reduction enables people to keep using. Harm reduction is about, how many of you have kids that you make sure they have their seatbelts on when you get in the car, or they ride with a bike helmet? That's harm reduction. Harm reduction, I've lived in Somerville for over 30 years, and I've worked in the addictions field just by, the grace of something got me in the field, and I've talked with people have talked with me about their lives in methadone, in programs, in jail, going cold turkey, going to AA, getting it once, getting it twice, going steps, not steps, smart recovery, everything. Everything works for somebody. Sometimes people are not in a place where they can get their lives where some of you have wonderfully told about. They can't do it yet. They don't want to do it yet. They die in a Dunkin' Donuts bathroom. I'm here to advocate a little bit. I've just sort of gotten involved with folks working on, and this sounds scary, safe injection facilities in Massachusetts. Not to say, here's a shooting gallery for you guys to have a good time, but where there are nurses and counselors and people that can hold their hand. And if they need Narcan, or if they come out of it, say, is this what you want to be doing? What do you want to be doing next? Because at some point, this isn't going to work for you. Build the relationships, get rid of the stigma for anybody, people in recovery, people not in recovery, people who say, I just don't want to do that God stuff. You don't have to. There's a lot of things, but make a connection, and some of it is the beginning, it's harm reduction. Look for us at the Hunk Parade this month. There'll be a banner for the safe injection site. People, remember, we're not about enabling more use, like don't worry about it. It takes just as much, it takes a lot of work to get clean. It takes a lot of work to just save your own life, whatever you do. And I live locally, and I'm really glad to work with this community, and thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Rivka. I want to also just say thank you to our first responders, Somerville Police Department. We have a wonderful gentleman here from the Somerville Fire Department, Tommy Ross, head of the local 76 union, here to ring the bell for us tonight. And Somerville, I am proud to be from Somerville. It is a community that is forward thinking, and we have been way out front on a lot of different aspects of this. Our first responders have been carrying Narcan for quite some time. We are working on getting drug court in Somerville. I know that there's a tough judge over there. You know, me and Matt McLaughlin and Stephanie Hirsch are working on that situation there, but we're trying to bring drug courts to Somerville also. So just to move on, we're going to bring up, last but not least, Miss Joanne Ravicchio. She's a parent who lost a son. He was a friend of mine. His name was Frankie Ravicchio. And we're going to bring up Joanne right now to give us some words.
I want to thank everybody for coming. I know it's really been a tough night. Very, very windy. This is a blown dried look. All right. You know, I lost my son Frank in 2009. It's actually going to be 9 years, November 15th. I always knew, it was in my mind that I was going to bury Frank. And I would come home every night worried, would it be the night that I would find Frank? So it did happen on November 15th. After making him breakfast and going in to wake him up to talk to him about the previous day he had a problem, to go in to find my son had passed. That's my sad story. And it's like 20 years of addiction, even longer than that I've been subject to. And it's a real hard thing to handle. And then I have a good story. I have a great story. I have my son Patrick here. He's been in recovery for 6 years. He has 2 beautiful children. My granddaughter, who was out there painting, she's 5 years old today. So, happy birthday, Shay. I do have a great life. I have a wonderful family. But there's a void in my heart, and that void is losing Frank. He was a wonderful kid, had a motorcycle accident at 21, and he fought a 10-year battle with OxyContin, and eventually his last 4 months of life, he ended up going to heroin. And that's something that he said he would never do. He would never put a needle to his arm. So Frank had his own stigma. He was very upset about what had happened in his life and what he ended up doing. So God love you, Frank. Rest in peace. And I'm here for all of you because, you know, we all matter. And everyone that has passed mattered too. And we do have to work as a community, whether it's citywide, countywide, statewide, or even the United States. We all have to work on this epidemic that's taken too many. Too many. I think it was 73,000 last year, 62,000 the year before. We lost 1,900 and I think it's 19 this past year. But there's still some deaths that they don't know if they can relate it to overdoses or for drug use. Because a lot of times the EMTs, well, when the police department or the fire department go there, sometimes it's related to a heart attack, but actually it was induced by drugs. You know, so there are secondary reports that will tell us whether it's more or not. I want to thank Jesse and Stephanie. They're both on that there are new people in the city that are working towards substance abuse. And so far we did have one meeting, and I'm sure you're going to have a lot more, right? Because we're going to nip this in the butt, you know? I love you all. I want to thank you for coming. We do have a TV show on Monday nights, and we have treatment centers. We have Bob McWaters. We have people from the courts. Actually, we're going to have the judge come on in January, and she's going to talk about what she's done in Cambridge. And Rowan has a homeless court. She has a mental health court and also a drug court. And there's less people in the drug court because a lot of A lot of times people don't realize that there's a lot of dual diagnosis going on. And you have to take care of the mental health part of it before you can take care of the addiction part of it. So hopefully we'll get more and more facilities available and treatment centers to be able to help with this epidemic that is huge. I would say it's not even an epidemic anymore, it's a pandemic. And we need everybody to work together to find solutions to this huge epidemic. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. So that does.
I also want to thank my friend Tom Ross.
Tom Ross, yep.
Did 6 years
So that concludes the speaking part of the program. Right now, if I've given you cards, if you could just come up, everyone else, if you could just, while people are coming up with cards, grab a candle off the table there. Oh, actually, DJ and Michelle, can you guys help pass out some candles? All right, trusty volunteers. Where do you want us? Try to arrange yourself in alphabetical order if you can. I think it goes you, then Ian. So you're gonna be first. Okay. You're gonna just ask. Ian, what do you have? Best you try to arrange yourself. Whatever. Okay, folks, this will start the part of the ceremony where we read the names of those we lost. I just want to say one more time, reiterate the fact that we're here because of overdose deaths, and overdoses are 100% preventable. Through harm reduction, through the use of Narcan, nobody has to die. So I just want to remember that, but tonight we will remember the folks that have succumbed to the disease of addiction and weren't lucky enough to make it out like so many others have. And so let's remember them tonight. We'll start off. So Tommy Ross is going to ring the bell with each name. So let's get started.
Stephanie Aceto and Michael Phillips. Melissa Allen. Zachary Andrade. Paul Auk. Joseph Auk. Jillian Audette. James Avitable. Timothy Barba. Mike Begin. Mark Blaheen.
Marissa Blaise, Lauren Bradford, Paul Burns, Michael Kane, Eric Brayman, Patrick Carbone, Justin Conicchio, Amy Caruso, Darian Castro, Kelly Carroll, Rebecca Clifford, Sean Coyley, Daniel Collier, Sean Crimmins, Sean Patrick Curtis, Eric J. Sear,
John Daggett, Sandra Dagnall, Jason Davies, Stephen Deagle Jr., Michael DeMarco, Alicia Marie DeMarco, Carlos de Medeiros, Robert Dubé, Dougie Duane, Crystal DeRose, Stanley DeRose, Scott Elkin, Kathleen Erico, Ryan Evans, Deborah Fairbank, Sean Flynn,
Joseph Gagliardi, Johnny Gagliardi, Ryan Gilligan, Aaron Gorman, Evan Green, Austin Haley, Ryan Harrington, Jacob Hayden, Jake Hayden, Kerry Heading,
Curtis Hendrick II, William Jamie Hutchins, David Inglis, Glenn Jackson, Shannon Lacey, Zachary Lapcola, Matthew LaGrescia, Tara LaPouche, Elizabeth LaForte, Kyla Haiti, Kevin LeVay, Jared Lindsay, David Lubier Jr., Tricia Macedo, Joseph Manter, Joe Manter, Paul Marks, Nicole Matrano, Julie Mather,
Corey James Merrill, Chris Mercer, Brendan McDonald, Robert McCluskey, Anthony Melanson, Robert McCullum, Colin McCarthy, Kathy Mazzio, Kelly Monaco, Brian Murphy, Danny Nunes.
Neil Nogler, Christopher Oates, Michael O'Donnell, Chris O'Mara, Christopher Ormond, Mark O'Shea, Stephen Pacheco, Michelle Buffini, Steve Perkins, Charlie Pike, Freddie Pike, Angela Perel, Frank Revicchio, Barbara Rogovich.
Dennis Ryan, Nick Ryan, Patrick Ryan, Joseph Savini, Brendan Scalisi, Bobby Schofield, James Slattery, Billy Smallwood, Thomas Signer, Michael Sparks, Deborah Spillane, Lisa Spillane, Melvin Stevens, David Sword.
Jonathan Testa, Jerry Thurston, Bobby Tolman, Ryan Trant, Shane Tresillian, Justin Vieira, Kyle Vivian, Eddie Vopicelli, Shannon Wardinsky. Casey Washburn. Corey Waters. Thomas Westcott. Tommy Whalen. Adam Wright. And I'd like to also recognize my sister Jennifer Klingon and my other sister Christine Kremen. And I want to say, through this sorrow may impede my heart, it is of great love to have known you all. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you all for coming out tonight, remembering those we've lost. Go check out the graffiti art, try that out, and again, thank you, good night, drive safe.
I hope we didn't forget anyone. Is there anyone else that they would like to add to this? I do. I have one person, and this little girl never had a chance to be born. All right. She lived for an hour. All right, her name was Ariana Marie DeMarco. Imagine that, she lived 1 hour. Thank you.
So as Joanne said, if you didn't hear a name mentioned, or somebody recently just passed that you know, you can get your name, and if you'd like to come up now and say their name, we can recognize them.
Don't worry about it, just come on up and speak.
Kevin Sullivan.
Thank you. We'll add the name.
Isaac Gilmet.
Kimberly Marie Zona Hall.
I need to say this. I looked out into this crowd, and what can you see? All those beautiful kids out there. If we don't do something to squash this horrible disease, one of them may be a victim, and none of us want that.
One more, Chris Nadeau.
Good night, folks, thank you.
Thank you for